Okay. Good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the opening ceremony for That Which Sustains Us, MOV's newest feature exhibition. My name is Lorenzo, and I will be your virtual host for today's event. I would like to introduce our MC for today. His name is Mauro Veschera, and he is the CEO of the Museum of Vancouver.
For the opening ceremony of That Which Sustains Us. That Which Sustains Us is a long-term exhibition that will explore the convergence of different knowledge traditions in the Vancouver area through an examination of people's interactions with them and their natural environment. To begin, I would like to acknowledge that we are gathered here today on the ancestral lands, unceded territories of the Squamish, Tsleil-Waututh, and Musqueam on the ancestral village of Sanak. At this time, I would like to invite representatives from our host nations, Morgan Guerin from the Musqueam, Norman Guerriero from the Squamish, and Carleen Thomas representing the Tsleil-Waututh to make their formal opening and proceedings statements. Over to Morgan, who I believe is virtual. Morgan? Why don't we start with Carleen? Oh, Morgan, are you there?
I'm here.
Okay, great. Thank you, Morgan.
Aichka, Sam Nasiaya, dear friends and relatives, Entis at Seleno. My name is Morgan Guerin. I'm very happy to be joining you virtually, but from the very cradle of Musqueam village here, out at the mouth of the Fraser River. It's our people when we've done this work in the past, welcoming, which is a protocol rooted in the very fabric of Mother Earth. We, our family that are all here today, have always been the stewards of this land. And the Musqueam used to have a village up on the bluffs where they would see people coming in towards the land, and they would dispatch warriors to go meet them from the village of Cullahan. And those warriors would go out and ascertain if those people came with peace in their hearts and if they had a good intention for what they wanted, the work they wanted to do on the shores. So that's the first work that we do. Is we call it a welcoming, but it's a little presumptuous if you didn't come in peace. So, but I can see everyone here today not only has come with a good, peaceful heart, but has also come with a very good intention of having a talk about something that is very near and dear to our Huamuch people. And especially at a time that we must acknowledge is very tough for our people, when things have come to light which were no secret to us, but at the same rate, still a very hard piece of time that we must go through in our healing journey. But understanding that those teachings from our ancestors are of prime importance to who we are, and the very framing, that which sustains us. I know Carleen and I, we have our beautiful Hunkaminam language, which my cousin Norman also, very, very close knit in a lot of the words. So in Hunkaminam we say Hualmuch. Hualmuch refers to someone who is, we call First Nations. But the teaching my grandmother gave me was much more specific than that. It had nothing to do with race, but how you lived your life. Hualmuch, you belong to the earth, is how the best way to translate it. Tamuch, the earth. Tamath, blood of the earth, the paint that we wear. Understanding that connection of who we are and that sense of belonging. You belong to the earth like a child belongs to its mother, something that can never be delineated. And it's a right, but it's also a responsibility. So when we look at the things that Mother Earth gives us from day to day, from the water that she gives us, the air that fills our lungs, to the many, many the schoolyards of our ancestors were in the mountains. They were in the water, they were in the forest, they were on the beaches. And with that beautiful transition of oral history, that's where those things happened. And I'm glad that we're having a conversation that this thing that is known to us, part of who we are, the very fabric of who we are, that conversation is learning to really weave its way into everyone's lives around them, understanding that this isn't just something that an Indigenous person needs to hold near and dear, but all of us who walk across Mother Earth in this area have the same responsibility. And it's just, we hold the right to speak about it when we need to. So that said, I can say with everybody coming with that good message, on behalf of the Musqueam people, I welcome you to our traditional and unceded territory, acknowledging my lovely relatives from Squamish and Tsleil-Waututh as well, whose ancestors belong to this land and have always belonged to this land. We have always been three nations divided by boundaries and yet always been connected by bloodlines. So, Haitsapka, welcome.
Thank you, Morgan. Very thoughtful. I'd like to call Norman Guerriero from the Squamish Nation now to bring his words of welcome. Norman?
Hot squile tanoyap. Tanoyap say I is a quatal. Nesta ants the Talton Queen Quishamin, Norman Guerrero Queen Sna. Chitwa Quinman to chase the yam, haha anectis seats squile. Chitwa Quinman wait to swam chit, to say o whatchit. Quiswa ins echnatus wait to high snowiest chit, to nuchnail chit, to chiauch chit, to sneechim chit, to high to meo chit. Chitwa Quinmais chuan wait, now what as koi quetsi wait. Now what is toakin quetsi wait amen. Chit hutch no wait to mant, no why not to qua camloops call out to when now tweet. No man tot star oath, la case call out to tis seats amen. Nath must was what chit Quinmais chuan wait. On hot squallow and chit quismate like nomiap, to tea, tis seats. Not to house quach me white, plus oath to me, not to qua Museum of Vancouver. Chitwa Quin man wait, to swa amchit to say a whatchit, quiswa in sech nate to swait, to swuyam chit, to sietsamt la to me chit, to sna, plus oath to me. Nath mas was tea quach me white. Wa to tis seats. Chit Quin mantomiap to Humatsquiam sequatal Tsleil-Waututh sequatal swat quiswas sates up yap not ti quach me white amen. Test sates up la swat nawa an as hook. Tinatla tanawa in natum to snowayas. What chit Quin mantomiap Sharon Fortney states up sequatal quiswa tehem to high states up la quach me white chitwa kayachton tanoyap osiam. Good day to you all, respected leaders, friends, and relatives. Satalton is my ancestral name. Norman Guerrero is my English name. We give thanks to the Creator today and every day. We give thanks to our ancestors and our elders as they protected our sacred teachings, our upbringings, our protocol, our sacred language, and our lands. We send our thoughts and prayers to those who are sick and for those who are in mourning. We honor and remember the 215 Indigenous children of the mass grave at Kamloops Indian Residential School. We send our thoughts and prayers to them and their families, and to all former students of the Indian residential schools. We have in our hearts and minds good feelings about today's work. We welcome you and thank you all for attending today's opening of the new exhibit, That Which Sustains Us, at the Museum of Vancouver. We give thanks to our ancestors and our elders for protecting all of the legends, stories, and histories of the land, as well as remembering the place names throughout our territory. We are forever in gratitude to them for this, and this new exhibit showcases their efforts to preserve who we are and where we live. We give thanks to our Musqueam and Tsleil-Waututh relatives for their contributions to this exhibit, as well as everyone else who contributed and shared our stories. On behalf of the Squamish Nation Language and Cultural Affairs Department, we give thanks to Sharon Fortney and her team for putting together all of the sacred work for this new exhibit, That Which Sustains Us. We all raise our hands to you and your team. Osiam.
Thank you, Norman. It's my pleasure to now invite Carleen Thomas from the Tsleil-Waututh Nation to say a few words. Carleen.
O CM ni siaya ay tanishkwaloin kutsi kutsnali huhi anta ansachlot anta mana santaya I siakmak slahot CM anta imith kweth ansachlot kweth slahot CM I kweth skwistemotoch I kweth halat hai tsepka amit sep kwetwilam I chomatkwiyum I schoholtmish I sautotama. So what I said to you in the very teeny tiny bit of my language that I know called Hunklemeetnam or Downriver Halkamelam, my respected ones, the feelings I have inside are so good to see you and to be with you here today. And in Coast Salish way, I introduced myself to you with my ancestral name. I carry the name Ansachalot. It comes from my 5 times great grandmother who happened to be here in this place. This is where she lived and raised her children. So this place is very dear to me. I also shared with you who my parents are and my grandparents are. We do that for a number of reasons, but the most important, it informs you, the audience, that I know who I am. I know where I come from. And as a well-mokta, as a grandmother, I carry that responsibility more dearly these days. So my parents are Deanna George and the late hereditary chief, Ernie, or Iggy, as he was known to his friends. My paternal grandparents are the late hereditary chief, John L. George, and the late Lillian or Dolly George, who gifted me my ancestral name. My maternal grandparents, for a real long time, I didn't really acknowledge them in my protocol welcomes, and it really bothered me to think, why would I not include my maternal grandmother, who was so important to me and to my family? And I came to the realization that it was the colonization of our peoples. You know, our good friend Morgan talked about those borders. Those borders were not ours. They were forced upon us and they ripped apart families. So it's with great honor and respect that I acknowledge my maternal grandparents as the late Stan Joseph from the Squamish Nation and the late Caroline ni Thomas ni Joseph ni Trimble, who comes from Snuneymuxw and Kincolith, from Nanaimo and the Nisgat village called Kincolith. Raising my hands in Coast Salish way, it's a gesture of welcome. Hi, Tsepka, thanking all of you. Amit Seputwilam, I'm welcoming you here to the homelands and waters of the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people.
Welcome. At this time, I'd like to invite Samaya Jarde from the Squamish Language and Culture Department to tell us a little bit about the exhibition. She'll be joining us virtually, and I know that we have a couple of our colleagues here in person as well. Samaya, are you there?
Thank you, I am. Hot Squile Tanoya, Hotland Squallowan, Quintsquatchnomia, Etati. To all of my dear friends and relatives, it was with all of my good feelings that I'm here and sharing this beautiful space, time, and place with each of you. Although several of us are virtual and some are at the gallery, we are here together in heart and mind. I am grateful. I'm grateful to those who spoke before me to offer the welcome to this beautiful territory and the acknowledgement of this incredible exhibit. This exhibition has taken a lot of love and time, energy, hours to put this together, to collectively come together and share with one another about that which sustains us. These most sacred lands and territories that we are from, that we are located, and the forests that surround us. The exhibition speaks about that which sustains us and talks about the past and present lifestyle choices that have shaped and reshaped the lands that are around us. I'm grateful to this exhibit, and I'm prayerful that those that are able to visit the gallery, whether in person or virtual, that it gives them time to pause, to be thoughtful about what legacy that we leave for our children and future generations, about the lands that sustain us, that which sustain us, the lands around us. We, the Squamish Nation, Tsleil-Waututh, and Hwmahthwiyam have spoken about how sacred this territory is, and we work to keep breath and life for those teachings that have been laid down to us about stewardship, about how to take care of this territory that has nurtured us in mind, body, heart, and spirit, that the lands and the forests that have fed us with food, clothing, medicines, that have sustained us from the beginning of time, from our time of our creation stories and our first ancestors. So we're prayerful that this exhibition of that which sustains us will give each time to pause to think about the legacy that we leave. What circles will the trees tell us of this time, of how we have taken care of the lands, and how have we nurtured it to pass it on to future generations? And how is it that we will shape it? What mark will we leave? So I'm grateful to be here. I'm excited about this exhibition. Again, as C. Talton had mentioned, we are so grateful to the Museum of Vancouver and to the love and efforts of Sharon Fortney and her team for staying and persevering through this most challenging past 16 months of the pandemic to bring us to this day. And so I raise my hands to each and every one of you. I say, Chen Kun Mantomia.
Thank you, Samaya. I'm going to ask Carleen Thomas to come back up. Carleen is with the Tsleil-Waututh Nation, I think works in the intergovernmental relations area, but Carleen's been involved in this initiative for many years. And so I'm asking her to say a few words about the actual exhibition. Carleen.
Before I begin, I'd just like to take a moment to, like my relatives before me, acknowledge the trauma that has resurfaced with the find of those 215 little souls. And I think, you know, doing work like this with the Museum of Vancouver is a start on healing those wounds, healing that trauma, healing that dark history. It has been a true labor of love working on this exhibit. I've been fortunate to be here since the beginning, and I too raise my hands to Sharon and Craig and Daniel. They're the ones that we've been working most closely with for really listening with an open heart and an open mind to ensure that the stories of the Hwalmokh people, the Musqueam, the Squamish, and the Tsleil-Waututh people are interwoven throughout the entire exhibit, and that it's not only just about the past, but it's also about the present and the future. That which sustains us came from a word that, you know, I do a lot of of talks and speeches about Tsleil-Waututh people. And I remember sharing with an uncle from the island one time, you know, when we start talking about resources, that commodification just, it comes to mind, and it really bothered me to think about, you know, what we're trying to accomplish here. And he said, you have that word. And my sincere apologies to all my people. I'm not sure if I'll say the word right, but the word translated means to food. And so therefore that which sustains us. When we think about our connection to the lands, the waters, the flora and the fauna, it's really important to highlight that shahalmus, that sacred obligation the Wellmouth people have in caring, in being stewards of the lands and the waters. So it's really with great pleasure to finally see this finally come to fruition. And I'm really excited to take a tour. And I found a way to be here because I thought Samaya was going to be here, and either Larissa or somebody from, well, Morgan, I thought you're going to be here. So it's a big virtual hug for you guys. And again, thanks to Sharon and the team and the museum for working with us in a really integral way, really respectful way. Hi, Tsepka, thanking all of you.
Thank you, Carlene. I know the team has learned a lot, and it's been a process that has been really important for the museum and our healing. At this point, I'd like to invite the chair of the Museum of Vancouver, Mr. Eddie Adra, to come and say a few words and bring greetings on behalf of the board of directors for the Museum of Vancouver. Eddie?
Thank you, Mauro. And I wanted to welcome everyone to the opening of the Museum of Vancouver's brand new exhibit, That Which Sustains Us. This rich exhibition uniquely tells the story of Vancouver's forests and natural environment by examining the life of the forests through the interconnected lenses of land, water, food, our movement, the economy, our homes, and of course, through stories. This exhibition will be the first in a series that will launch the museum's galleries in a brand new direction. On behalf of the Museum of Vancouver's Board of Directors, I welcome you and your households in joining us in immersing ourselves in this new exhibit, as well as the many other amazing exhibits that are currently on display. I also wanted to thank our partners, our sponsors, and everyone who worked hard to make this exhibition happen. I'd like to acknowledge our partners in redress and decolonization, the Musqueam, Squamish, and Tsleil-Waututh nations, the exhibition funders, the Port of Vancouver, the Real Estate Foundation of BC, and the Vancouver Foundation, our institutional funders, the Canadian Heritage, the BC Arts Council, and of course, the City of Vancouver, all the members of the advisory committee, our dear curator, Dr. Sharon Fortney, thank you. Our design team and fabrication team that really made this exhibition happen. And of course, all of MOV's staff, board, and volunteers. I want to close by acknowledging that the Museum of Vancouver, as an organization, is committed to continuing to learn and educate ourselves in order to support the important and vital work of redress and decolonization in our society. Thank you.
Thank you, Eddie. Often the boards are overlooked, but we have, a board that is very supportive of this work and has helped move the organization forward, and I just want to acknowledge that. At this time, I just want to introduce a very special person, our curatorial impresario. I can say that because it's a fancy word. but our curator of Indigenous collections and exhibitions, Dr. Sharon Fortenay, to tell us a little bit more about that which sustains us. Sharon has been working patiently on this for many years, and it's really been a great opportunity for the whole organization to learn. So we acknowledge her and respect her work at the museum. It's super important. Sharon.
Thank you to everyone who's here to join us today. I'd like to first start by thanking all our friends from the 3 host nations that have taken time out of their busy schedules to welcome us to this exhibition and to share their words with us. It's been a difficult week, and we really appreciate the time that people have chosen to give to us and the investment that was also made to bring this exhibition forward. I'd just like to give a little information about myself as well. So I'm the granddaughter of a survivor of the Cooper Island Residential School. So I do not have like an ancestral name, and I don't speak my language, but my work is always about bringing culture forward, I hope, and making it accessible to young people coming up behind us. So that's what I really see this project about. And I'm really pleased with the effort we put into this and what we put forward to share with the public. So my job as curator is to also thank the team. So I'm just going to acknowledge everybody who participated in community curation for the project, beginning with the Musqueam community. We had Larissa Grant and Jill Campbell from the language department, and Jason Woolman, always very supportive of our work. At Squamish Nation, we had many people from the language and culture department. We started with Tracy Williams and then went to Marissa Nahaney, and then Samaya Jarde stepped in. And then through her, we've been able to work with many people, including Norman Guerrero, who did the welcome today, Lorraine Lewis, Chantal Gwen Newman, Latiquia, I forgot your last name. I'm just thinking, I'm sure Erin Williams probably contributed something as well. So many, and Peter Yelton, sorry. And then from Tsleil-Waututh, we worked with Carlene Thomas, Michelle George, and Michael George on this project. And they were very generous and took one of our staff members up Indian Arm last week, and we'll be having a film to add to the exhibition shortly. So we really appreciated that as well. That work was all supported by the Vancouver Port Authority. So thank you so much for supporting our community curation. It meant a lot to us. On our team, the fabrication team worked really hard on this project. We are lucky to have Josh Doherty as our fabrication manager, Winter Stacy as our fabrication technician, and then we had 2 auxiliaries, Heather Turnbull and Marion Couvert, who did a beautiful job building the exhibition and doing the lighting and all the audiovisual for us. Other staff members that worked on this project were Fiona Hernandez, our conservator, Haley Monroe and Brendan Rivas, also conservation technicians. In the curatorial department, we had Wendy Nichols, Vivian Goslin, Jillian Poverchuk, Christine Pennington, and we had a few Young Canada Work students, Michelle and JJ. So thank you also for your work on this. I'm just trying to remember everybody. And then we had a number of historical researchers who contributed to this project, both as That Which Sustains Us and in the past under a title called Vancouver Transformation. So I'd like to recognize the late Bob McDonald. We also had Eric Anderson from the Forest History Association of BC sit in on a couple meetings. David Brownstein and his partner Jennifer from Klahani Research did some research for the project. We had Montana Mills, who was an intern in the past, do a lot of preliminary object selection and research for this project. And we also had somebody from the City of Vancouver's Public Art Department, Eric Fredrickson, help us with a loan for this from the Public Art Collection. And I'd also like to acknowledge Janie Chang, who is an ancient technologist who works with the Squamish Nation Little Ones, and Zoe McDowell, who allowed us to film them doing their work with fish skin leather and mushroom dyes to be featured in the exhibition. Also, the Green Infrastructure team was really generous in sharing some of their photos and research with us so we could put a thread through the exhibition to encourage city residents to think about ways they can contribute to regreening the city and increasing biodiversity in the city. Even though we can't return it to its former state, we can still do a lot to improve the lives of everyone who lives here. So with that, I'll thank and Chad and Daniel, I'm so sorry. So our exhibition designers, if you're not in front of me, I'm not thinking of you, I apologize. So Chad and Daniel, they wore many hats for this exhibition. So they did all the design twice. They did the design for Vancouver Transformation, and then they graciously came back and did the redesign for That Which Sustains Us. And that involved even modifying their designs to account for the need to social distance and COVID. So there are changes that had to be made along the way in light of that event. They also did all the graphic design for the project, and they're working right now on an animation. We have part of it installed in the exhibition, but there'll be a longer animation that looks at change in the Vancouver area, including natural history changes, how traditional land use practices manage the forest in the past, coming to settlement, and some of the troubling consequences of settlement, from deforestation to epidemics to residential schools, to how we hope to blanket the city once again in culture and make it a greener and more comfortable place to live. So thank you to everyone who worked on this. I raise my hands to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. Before concluding, I just would like to take a quick moment and acknowledge some of our funders and supporters, the exhibition funders, the BC Real Estate Foundation, the Port Authority of Vancouver, Vancouver Foundation, our institutional funders, the City of Vancouver, the BC Arts Council, and Department of Canadian Heritage. But I want to especially do a special recognition of our partners in redress and decolonization, and that is the Musqueam, the Tsleil-Waututh, and the Squamish, and how their work on this project and how they came together. It's been a labor of love, I can say that now, but it's been challenging. And all of this happened because we have a great team here led by a great curator, and that's Dr. Sharon Fortney. And I can't say enough about Sharon's patience and bringing the groups together. This is the start of, I shouldn't say a start, this is a continuation of our work, and we look forward to the next exhibitions that we do together. With that, I just want to thank everybody. Please come down and have a look at this exhibition. It'll be here long-term. It's very significant. It tells the story of place in a different way. It's about the past, but it's about the present, and it's about the future.